Ant-Man is directed by Peyton Reed and went through a well-documented series of behind-the-scenes drama where Edgar Wright was originally attached to direct and had been working on the film for about 9 years, before parting ways with Marvel so that the film could tie more into the MCU, being the last film in Phase 2 of their universe. Being a big Edgar Wright fan, I was disappointed that we wouldn't see his take on Ant-Man, especially as it was a film he was attached to for so long. But hey, if he hadn't moved on, we probably wouldn't have gotten Baby Driver, and even with all that drama to the side, Peyton Reed did a pretty damn good job in putting together an entertaining superhero romp, and I think he caught a lot of people off guard. Ant-Man is thankfully much smaller in scale compared to the other Marvel films that have preceded this. Although the villain Yellow Jacket's plans had potential world-threatening ramifications, we weren't watching cities fall to the earth or aliens traveling through portals in the sky. This was just Scott Lang trying to do the right thing and hoping to spend more time with his daughter, while being roped into a superhero heist. It's still very bizarre to see Paul Rudd in a big tentpole superhero film, where eventually he stands next to Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., who are now titans of the superhero genre. Every moment he appears on screen, he just looks like he's happy to be there, and that energy and positivity just carries throughout the entire film. He doesn't go through quite the extreme transformation that Chris Pratt did for Guardians of the Galaxy, but you can see he's giving it his all here, even if to people who are familiar with his raunchy adult comedies, seems a little tame and held back here. But in all honesty, it's really great to see a different side to Paul Rudd, who can offer the loving, caring father while also being a part of the superheroics. His relationship with his daughter Cassie is the core of the film, so having their scenes being touching and heartwarming is vital, and it is pulled off wonderfully, giving the movie so much heart. A good portion of the cast were brought on board while Edgar Wright was still directing, and it's a wonder that the cast ended up being as professional and dedicated to the film, with Peyton Reed replacing him. Compared to other stars, Natalie Portman, who put in half the effort when directors change, it's awesome to see such great work ethic put into place. Michael Douglas plays the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, who invents the Ant-Man technology and Pym formula that allows things to shrink and enlarge almost instantly. We see Hank take Scott on as a protege, hoping his new Ant-Man can stop his old protege, Darren Cross, from selling shrinking tech to Hydra so it can be used as a weapon. As a number of people have argued with Marvel's superhero origin stories, Ant-Man follows the Iron Man formula pretty closely, in having a hero come up against a mirrored version of himself, this time the Yellow Jacket, who is threatening to sell tech that only they have access to a pretty nasty group of people. This film follows the formula closer than, say, Doctor Strange, but end of the day, all of these films have been borrowing the formula from Superman the movie. Ant-Man still does enough right to be a good time despite any of its shortcomings. Michael Douglas looks like he's having a really fun time with the role, and as the mentor to Scott Lang, we get a nice parallel where Hank Pym is working to help his daughter Hope, much like Lang is. This is also when Marvel really started using their de-aging technology. We got a glimpse of them aging up actors in Winter Soldier with Peggy Carter, but she was in one position, not really moving. Here we have a much younger Michael Douglas walking around and interacting with actors. It's still slightly off-putting, but because it's sparingly used and Hank Pym isn't running around or doing stunts, they get away with it here. Evangeline Lilly makes her first appearance as Hope Van Dyne, or Hank Pym's daughter, who will finally get to be the Wasp in this year's sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Hope's role is vital in Scott's progression as a hero, teaching him to relax and focus on what's in front of him. While she is mainly aiding Scott's journey in this movie, she does go through an arc of her own, being quite stubborn and distant to her father at the beginning, eventually becoming more cooperative and welcoming to the idea of teamwork and working with Scott and her father, which gives her the best place to be when she does don the Wasp mantle. And of course, how can you not mention Michael Pena as Louis, Scott's right-hand man? Is he ultimately the comic relief? Sure, but his light-hearted persona and stories just make everything so damn entertaining. Every story he tells is still so fun to watch. If we ever get to Ant-Man 3, I'd love for someone to do a supercut of all the stories together. Not to mention, one of his stories gave the first MCU reference to Spider-Man, which was mind-blowing at the time. Now, our villain Yellow Jacket is again another one-note Marvel villain. Corey Stoll does a fine job giving a very menacing, manipulative performance, but the character is again someone needed just for this movie, where there isn't really much to him other than, Hank Pym lied to me and now I'm selling my tech to crooks. Yeah, he gets a sweet design, but you're not really thinking of Yellow Jacket after you finish the movie. There are some great action sequences between him and Ant-Man though, including the helicopter fight, with notably one of the few times The Cure licenses out one of their songs, for a super brief moment of time however. And the big final showdown on the Thomas the Tank Engine train set still makes me laugh to this day. Ant-Man does a lot right, even when most people were expecting it to bomb before it released. It introduces us to the microverse or quantum realm in the movie, the world within worlds that can only be accessed at subatomic levels, which just let the VFX teams go crazy in creating some wacky and tricked out vistas. And while they aren't as out there as the different planes of existence that we see in Doctor Strange, they're still startlingly beautiful to look at and a real highlight of the movie. The score isn't really anything to run home about, but it serves the purpose and tone of the film by being the quirky, fun comedy you didn't know Marvel could give you. It seems like your usual comedy because that's what Marvel and Pete and Reed are going for, and for that it works, but at the sake of creating the sense of familiarity, it prevents the film score from being particularly unique, which I'm hoping is something that gets improved upon with the sequel. Ant-Man is a fun bite-sized adventure in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, it leans a little bit too much into the Avengers by including a significant amount of references and tying Falcon into the story, which still feels forced and unnecessary, even if the action sequence between Ant-Man and Falcon is still admittedly entertaining. It's a film that offers a lot of heart and can be digested very easily, even if it doesn't blow open the doors on the superhero genre. I think you'd be hard-pressed to not get some level of enjoyment out of it. Ant-Man gets a 7 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. Next week we'll be looking at Captain America Civil War as we build up to the release of Avengers Infinity War, so be sure to stay right here for your mono fix. Bye guys.